What's up, guys? So, day 27, and what I really wanted to talk about briefly today is ADHD, and if any of you have ever been diagnosed with it. It's something that I kind of forgot about for a while, but I was diagnosed with ADHD, or I think it was ADHD. It might have been ADD. I was diagnosed back in high school. I was struggling with school. I had difficulty focusing. My raw intelligence was said to be high as I scored well on tests. But when it came to class, I was always distracted. I was disruptive. I would crack jokes at the expense of other people, and I just had a very difficult time thriving in a traditional classroom. And for so long, I thought something was wrong with me, and I actually didn't realize until the past couple days how much actual like guilt and shame and lack of self-worth I actually had around that. Because when people diagnose someone as ADHD, it's no different than diagnosing them with any other type of mental issue like bipolar, manic depressive. But yeah, so any type of a mental quote unquote deficit that they diagnose people with, that is similar to how ADHD feels. Basically, there's a stigma created and a belief gets imprinted in the kid's brain. So like for my example, the belief that was imprinted in my brain was, hey, something's wrong with you. Let's try to fix you. So I went to some doctors and they tried medication that didn't work. I went to a couple of psychologists that didn't really work. And I believe we just kind of let it go. And then I had issues when I went to college. I flunked out right away because I just wasn't ready. I didn't have the right skills. It was way too much freedom. Side tangent, this is 100% not a knock on our system or my parents at all. They were doing the best. They were making choices based on the information available at the time. And I think the research now is still coming out more and more. But anyways, what I realized recently is how much shame I carried around for the fact that my brain worked differently. I would need to be engaged. I would get really involved in a certain task and then lose interest, find a new task, get really involved in it, lose interest, etc., etc., etc. And I was always a very creative person. I think in hindsight, schools in general cater to the masses, and it's understandable. We're trying to help as many people as possible. So the people on the edges are always going to naturally get served less than the people in the middle. And I'm not talking about like intelligence. I'm not saying that school necessarily caters to average people. It caters to people that think a certain way. And this fascinating book that I've been reading, or skimming at least, kind of talks about this, and it classifies people, in an overgeneralization, of course, classifies people as either hunters or farmers. And a hunter would be the ADHD person, and a farmer would be someone who doesn't have the same personality or character traits. And essentially, a farmer is someone who can follow a very rigid and structured schedule. They can go to a job or go to a school in which most days are very similarly structured. They don't necessarily need a lot of stimulation or excitement. This is not to say that they're boring at all. They just tend to be more logical, rational, and they tend to think very top down. If they're trying to solve a problem, a great example he gave is if someone who doesn't have ADHD is trying to solve a problem, let's say a door is locked, a farmer is going to try to punch the door and they're going to keep pushing on the door as hard as they can. Whereas a hunter, which is an ADHD person, will try to find more creative outside the box ways of solving this problem. So a farmer tends to be very structured, much more rigid, tends to not need a lot of nuance in their day-to-day life. And then the hunter, on the other hand, which I resonated with a lot, especially thinking back to when I was, 18, 19, early 20s, before I discovered some tools to help me understand how to use my skills. The hunters are much more creative, much more flexible. Because they would have traditionally been hunters, this name came from evolutionary research. Because they would have been hunters, they were naturally going to scan their environment. So they're always creating a story based on the environment. They're noticing all the details and they're painting pictures with their words, and they're creating stories, and they're looking at everything and they're scanning. They're always on alert. And these people, hunters, tend to thrive on situations that are novel and new and very full of stimulation. And it just makes so much sense for my own life. Just thinking back, why I never was able to just sit down and do work in, just a traditional classroom environment. And then even any jobs. Actually, the good thing is, I guess, I've never really had a job that's been super, super structured and that every day is similar, like a desk job. I've always worked in sales or retail, or what I do now is I work with teenagers. I'm a teacher for teenagers who have behavioral struggles, and every day is completely unique. And after reading this book, it kind of validated why I am where I am, and I realize I'm in the right place because I need novelty. I need to be challenged. My brain just works differently. And what he talks about in the book, this author, I'll have to find out the author's name, but the book I think was called ADHD, Hunters Living in a Farmer Society. What he talks about is the volatility of ADHD people and hunters and why they get labeled this way. It's because they tend to be very all or nothing. They'll get really involved in something and then they'll let it go, like I said. I had another thought, but I lost it. ADHD. Anyways, full circle, what I wanted to wrap with is, first of all, if you're someone who resonates with the ADHD or ADD thinking and you've been diagnosed or thought you've had tendencies, there's nothing wrong with you. You're just a different type of person. You're going to be more creative. You're probably going to be more emotionally connected. You're going to see the world a lot more different than other people will. And don't think that you have a flaw. If anything, you have a gift. You have very expansive energy, and you just have to find a way to channel it and to use it. I'm reminded by a great quote by Deepak Chopra. He said, "The best use of imagination is creativity, and the worst use of imagination is anxiety." And that is so true, because anxiety and creativity tend to be two sides of the same coin. I know I would definitely classify myself as a very creative person. I enjoy writing. I enjoy speaking. I enjoy thinking about ideas. And at times I'm very expressive and very creative and very in the moment and able to be very witty and know what to say and know how to handle new situations. But when I'm given situations that are quote-unquote dull or nothing is happening, that's where I tend to struggle. I was actually speaking with a friend who I'm in a group with, and we were talking about what we're struggling with recently. And I had said when I have downtime, like I had a couple weeks off work and I wasn't working every day, I struggled with the downtime because it's like my brain was always searching for that novelty. And I think people with ADHD that are diagnosed with that, it just means they're more creative. They're naturally going to excel in pressurized situations. They're going to need more stimulation. And then I think they also would benefit from tools like meditation, exercise, and a clean diet more so than anyone else. I've always, it's funny, this video is all over the place, which is very meta given the topic of it. But I've always classified myself as a high ceiling, low floor kind of person. If any of you guys do any baseball or football analysis of prospects, you'll know what that means. But essentially, high ceiling means I have a lot of upside, and a low floor means when I'm down, when I'm off, I'm really low. So I tend to have very high levels of variance in my behavior. Like when I'm locked in, when I'm in the zone, I feel like I am like legitimately like connected to the universe. Everything's firing. I always know what to say. I'm able to handle any situation. I'm funny. I'm smart. Everything's going. And then when I am off, when I'm going through like a darker time, so to speak, I'm very off. Like I'll be foggy, scattered. I'll have anxiety, and yeah, I'll just feel very off. So I would think a lot of people can relate to this. I kind of wish I would have started the video more with this section, but I just wanted to see what came up when I popped the camera on here. But if you feel like you are someone with these creative tendencies but who also has anxiety, I would absolutely recommend something like meditation to help focus you and channel things in the proper direction, and then make sure you get some type of exercise. I will definitely share a little bit more in detail on one of the next videos. I think it's becoming more clear that what I want to talk about is connecting to your true authentic self and then finding a way to channel that appropriately and most effectively. So what's best for you, what's best for everyone else. And I do think there is that sweet spot, because you can act out of a place of complete self-interest, and that's not serving anyone except yourself. And then you can act out of a place of altruism, but people tend to get very burned out if they do that. So I think there is a middle ground where you're still taking care of yourself for the benefit of everyone else. And that's where I'd like to live as much as possible. This video has gone on for almost 14 minutes, so I'm going to hop off. Sorry if it's all over the place. These are just the thoughts that have been going through my head recently. And I'm just trying to release some shame around how my brain works and embrace the fact that, I have gifts that other people don't have. And there might be some lows, but I'm going to work with those lows and share what I learn and try to help other people. So peace out, guys, and I will talk to you mañana.